Welcome back to another video from Carl's Cycle Supply. This video is an in-depth feature about a bike we did a long time ago. It was actually a video on our first YouTube channel 15 or 20 years ago. That video has over 1.2 million views, which is so wild to me. A lot of people got angry about the type of shoes I wore to start the bike, and the comments are pretty funny. We'll put the link in our description so you can see it. Anyways, this is a very special EL that we restored a long time ago, and it's been loved on in Indiana since then. One of our customers that wanted to go on the 36 EL coast to coast trip bought it to ride along with us. We did a light service, cleaned the tanks and carb, and converted it to 12 volt for safety, and we're hitting the road with it later on this summer. If you want to see more, stay tuned for the video coming up on our trip. Thanks and have a nice day. Here is a 1936 Harley-Davidson Knucklehead. This is one of the first 40 of them that were made, and it is a beautiful bike. My dad and I spent a long time restoring this for our friend in Indiana named Doug. We had actually been restoring a mid-series 36 for him, and he found the cases for this bike, and he said, well, I'd rather use those cases and do the early one. I said, well, what are you going to do with the mid-series 36? He goes, well, I want you to build a bike out of that one too. I was very young when we did this. It's a really nice bike. I hadn't seen it for a long time, and it's one of the ones that Doug wanted to sell, and one of our friends down south bought it to take on a trip with us. So we did a fun service on it. I got some video of that. It all went really good. So this is a very early 36, and there's a lot of weird things that changed in the production year in the 1700 and change bikes that Harley made, their first year of production for a Knucklehead. Let's talk about the first. This is the first year for an overhead valve, 45 degree, 61-inch engine. It's the first year for recirculating oil. It's the first year for the 4-speed constant mesh transmission. It's the first year for double down tube frame. It's the first year for interchangeable hubs with brake drums that bolt onto them. It's the first year for this style fork. So everything on an early 36 is different from a mid one or a late one. This has a flat top oil tank with these weird little plugs right here for the early production. I don't know why those are there. The one up in Canada has them, and then the 1002 that Mark Wall did had them as well. So I was really happy to find that oil tank. The fender itself, the blank is the same as the later ones, but the 3 holes for the chain guard insert are in a little bit different spot. And then the chain guard tab is in a little bit different spot too. It mounts from up top. And then if you look on the inside of this bracket right here, the holes for the rivets are countersunk, and they were like that in 36 and 37. The frame is very special. It's got the light gauge sockets right here. The XE6 is upside down right here. The seat post forging is the early style. It has the offset alamite fitting. It has a big hole right here. Each of these holes were drilled out to 1/2 inch, and then on the left side, they put a sleeve in it and staked it in 3 spots, and then had the regular 5/16 hole through the center for the terminal. My dad's 36 has this same style frame, and it's a 1200 number. So the motor transmission mount has the large XE625 on it. It has the narrow cross member down here. The loops are brazed onto the 1-inch tubes that go from the neck all the way to the axle plate. Something that's cool and very reminiscent of the earlier bikes is that it has these slash-cut reinforcement tubes right here. This is a 30-degree angle. The engine cases on early bikes were different. They had a smaller timing plug. The serial number boss did not have the little tabs right next to the speedo cable by the center case stud. The pattern number underneath the cam cover was raised out rather than being on the inside of the case like early ones. The oil pump was different. It's counterbored underneath here. There's no counterbore where the line goes in here. It's all little subtle different nuances, but it's all really cool stuff. So the transmission is completely different too. All the gears are very similar. The ratios for first, second, third, and fourth are all the same as later ones, but all the bushings are different. The shift dogs are different, or shift clutches, whatever you want to call them. You know, it was just very much in development bike that they were just like, we got to start selling some. And in Herbert Wagner's 1930 to 45 book, he talks about the first 110 being held back and getting worked on and released later. And this set of engine cases came from down south. I don't know how they ended up there. It's kind of just a cold trail, unfortunately, but I read and heard that they had problems with the baby food jars or top end oiling, and that's why they held back the first ones. And I wish I was there. I wish I could talk to some people that were there, but it's just all conjecture and hearsay. So let's talk about the transmission again. The kicker cover is an early kicker cover. I think this was only for the first 300 or 400. There's no boss for the vent. It's a little different down here, but you can't really see it. The case itself is different. There's no cover on the end of the counter shaft. That came out later. And then the top is different too. If you look at the engine has some cool aesthetic differences too. The cam cover is notched like this. The rocker boxes are early. The pins for the plug-in the oil passages are made out of solid round rod. They had 3 styles of pins for plugging the holes that go up and then the holes that go in. Early ones, I believe, were steel, and then they did brass, and then they did the bigger ones that are like all the other knuckleheads. Real early 36s had frog eyes on them, and I found an original one of these at Wasion, driving around with Doug, the guy that we built the bike for, and it was the best feeling ever. It was an early rocker box with 1 rocker arm and 1 frog eye, and I used that to copy to make these. And I remember when I was in high school, this guy named Bill Felton stopped by our house, and Bill worked in a Harley dealership in Montana or Wyoming, and he remembered one of these coming into the dealership, and he said that there was rope underneath them for the, I don't know if that was to soak up oil or seal it, but it was such a fun comment. He also found the Banjo 2 cam that's at Wheels Through Time, just the engine. The whole bike is different than a mid-36. I mean, this bike is so damn cool. It's an original dash cover, original early tanks, original speedo, original gauges, ignition switch. The handlebar forging is original, and then the bars were retubed by Tom Faber. The steering dampener is an early 36 one, and this was actually an NOS part that we bought from Bill Cycles in Bloomsburg, PA off of eBay. And like I said, we did this bike a long time ago. And this thing was, I think we paid $1,500 for it back then, but it is absolutely brand new. I made molds off of this and cast some up for me and my close friends. They were way too expensive to make. This is the original one that I used for a pattern. The beautiful original brake handle, all the controls work good. The front fork and front end of the bike, this is all nice original sheet metal. It's original ride control. 36 and 7 had the knob on the right side, and then they moved it to the left side in 38. All the wiring is new old stock, which is really cool because it's really light and dainty. The headlight's nice and original. Doug was real fun to work with because he wanted everything the best that it could be and everything right. And he even went to the extent of investing in his own plating equipment. So he did all of his own CAD plating, all of his own nickel plating, all of his chrome plating. Just did a fantastic job. That's really hard to do, and it's electroplating, so you kind of have to gauge how much current you put through it based off of the thickness and mass of the part. And you have to have spots for the charge to go through, otherwise you get weird milky spots. And the plating on this is really fantastic. He did a great job. The fenders and tanks were straightened out by Larry Medweg, and he painted them. And I remember when he first painted them, the cream was like really yellow in pictures, and we talked about it and thought about it for a week or two and agreed to redo it. And this is much closer to what it should have been. So some of the other cool parts is this early crash bar. This is 27 pieces, but people call them a 3-piece crash bar. There's all sorts of support rods in the center and all sorts of gadgetry going on in here. It has a 2-post relay. These little orange insulators are for 36 and early 37. It even has the early timer, which has the hollow shaft with a cam that presses on, and My dad's bike has one, and then my friend Rusty, he has one on his bike. They're really rare. You have to time them a little differently, but they still work really good. So here's the left side of this super early 36. And I figured we'd talk about a couple of the cool features and things that make it so special. We'll start over here. It has the early front brake with a stamped steel drum. The Alamite Zerk is 180 degrees from the drain. It has the early dimpled forks. It has a tubular shift arm and a smooth gate. This is a nice original one that Doug had forever. It has a beautiful original clutch pedal and an early bracket. And then it also has an early pedal shaft where it doesn't have a lock tab on it. So it's really, really cool. Something that's wrong that I'll change later on. This should be maybe like a quarter or half-inch shorter. The early ones weren't as long as the later ones, and this is a little later one. Right now it has a 32E generator and a 6-volt original coil, and we're going to be taking this on our trip later on this summer, and we're going to convert it to 12 volt before we go. And then I'm also going to take this crash bar off and put one of the later style ones on, because something that really sucks about these is that it's hard for you to put it all the way down with your toe. Your toe always hits the crash bar and it's uncomfortable. It has a early narrow primary cover with the drain on the outside, chrome inspection and chrome derby cover. I think it should have chrome intake manifold nuts too. The Deluxe Sport Solo, it came with chrome handlebars, kicker arm, exhaust. The generator cover might need to be chrome plated, I'm not entirely sure, but we're going to put a 12 volt one on it anyways. I've already put a big back brake on it. This had the early small brake on it, and it had the early tab on it, and that's very rare stuff and very cool to see. So it has a 3 rivet chain guard with a bolt holding it in the front, and I am going to spring mount that when we put a belt drive in it and change the inner primary. This is your choke. The bike had globe plugs in it, and I just got it running and I've put about 150 miles on it, and I put Champion D16s in it for that, and it works so much better. When I was a little boy, I met Bob and Gayla Sarr at Davenport and Farmington, and they were a cute couple. They had Cushmans and BSAs, and Bob worked for Champion spark plugs, and he told me that there was a contractual disagreement between Harley and Champion in those years, and Harley always made the metal parts of their spark plugs, but they'd buy the porcelains from Champion. And while they were arguing with Champion for a better rate, they got the porcelains from a company named Globe. And those are really easy to see and pick out because they don't have the bar and shield on them. It's just kind of like a double round marshmallow porcelain, and then it'll have an ink number in it that's black. They were used in 36, 37, 38, and 39, and they're worth a ton of money now. And even though they're worth a lot of money, can't even really ride with them that much. Like, I can have these perfectly tuned and a nice chocolate brown electrode on the spark plugs, and then I put in a fresh bead blasted clean pair of globes, and they just get all rich and sooty, and it's just kind of the way it is. So this bike's great. It sat for a long time. The gas tanks were lined with red coat, and we don't like coating gas tanks. The reason why is because you can use the coolest, latest, hottest shit gas tank liner that holds up to modern day fuels and whatever they put in them. And what happens is that the gas companies keep changing the formula, you know, a little bit every year. And eventually, after 20 years, gasoline's so different that it attacks linings. So I tried a couple different things. I put Rust 911 or Rust Emergency inside them, let them soak for a couple weeks. It touched the rust, but it didn't touch the coating. And we ended up putting acetone in them, which was really terrifying. I greased the tanks up like a pig so that if we spilled any, it wouldn't get on the paint, getting ready to pour the acetone on, and it slipped, and I was like trying to catch it in my hands, and it was going all over the place. It was so funny. So I'm glad that I didn't drop it. I'm glad we got the liner out, and I'm gonna put one of my prototype narrow belt drive setups on this. I'm really excited to see this thing go across the country. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in to the next episode where we'll be going over beautiful restorations and motorcycling adventures here at Carl's Cycle Supply.